Hey everybody, welcome. This is Marnie, and I am here today to share Dallas Lewis with you and her new book, Why Some Animals Eat Their Young, A Survivor's Guide to Motherhood. You're going to have so much fun during this hour with some highs, lows, some humor and laughter in life. During this hour, we're going to talk about the toughest job in the world and why it's so underrated, the importance of boundaries for parents, authors, and speakers, how to handle battlefield scenarios at home, at work, and in ministry, the role of partners, collaborators, and supporters in growing through rough times, how to giggle through the roller coaster twists and turns of life, Dallas's personal tips on anger management amidst confusion and chaos. And Dallas is a modern day Irma Bombeck. She's encouraging women in their faith, parenting, marriages, and ministries. Her new book, Why Some Animals Eat Their Young, is a hilarious, God-centric look at life. You can learn more about Dallas at dallaslewis.com. And also, you can invite her to speak over at womenspeakers.com. I'm so excited to welcome you here today. Hi, Dallas.
Hey, Marnie, how are you?
I'm so good. And we were having so much fun laughing before we came online. And we're going to have fun because I can't believe you wrote a book, Why Some Animals Eat Their Young. That's hilarious.
Me either. It's a total shock to me too. And our laughing, my makeup is going to run. So we can't, you got to be careful with that.
We can't do that anymore then. None of that. Because we're both so perfect.
Oh, come on now. Whew. Girl, I got into it with one of my kids right before we came on. I said, don't y'all know Mama's got an interview. Y'all have got to let me chill.
Yeah, behave, please. Behave, right.
Yeah, behave just a little bit. Just cut me some slack for just a minute, and then we can pick this back up at 1:00 this afternoon.
How old are your kids?
They are 17, 8. Nope, I'm sorry. That's not right. I haven't had enough coffee this morning. They are 18, 19, and 20. 20. And it's the 20-year-old that's given me grief because, well, he's grown now and he's 20 years old and bulletproof. So what does he need mom for?
I'm not going to die. I can take her on.
He should know better, though. He really shouldn't. He's been around me long enough to know I wouldn't poke that bear. She'll write another book.
Yeah. You had 3 babies in 3 years, and motherhood is definitely the toughest job in the world.
Girl, I had 3 babies in 2 years. My oldest turned 1 in August, and I delivered number 2 in October. And 12 months and a week later, I delivered number 3. Wow. Let that sink in for a minute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Once you're through it, you kind of forget a lot of how intense it is. I'm watching my daughter go through it right now with a newborn, and it's mighty intense. That newborn stage is really amazing.
The newborn stage, honestly, for me, well, with the first one, I mean, it wasn't when I had 3 of them, but I mean, they were always newborns. I always had a new baby. The stork had us on speed dial. But with the first one, that newborn stage, that's super sweet. That's almost my favorite in the very beginning, because they just sleep and then they eat and then they sleep some more. And it's the toddler stage. It's the toddler stage, and then fast forward to the middle school stage where you're just going, oh my stars, I don't know that I signed up for all this.
Right. Don't mention the teens for sure. Don't talk about that.
No. It was my kids as teenagers were not, they were really a blessing as teenagers. I liked them. I wasn't trying to sell them. I didn't want to give them away. I didn't call my mother and say, come get them. But middle school, let me tell you, middle school was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was a challenge.
Yeah, our kids too were such a delight in the teen years, and in fact, they were such great kids that when they were teenagers, I gave them permission that if I was being unreasonable, they could say, "Mom, do you want to just spend a couple minutes with Jesus, and then we can talk about this again?" Yeah.
Wow.
And they could actually respectfully do that. They didn't play that card very many times, but sometimes, I think as a mom, we kind of get all wound up in the moment, and we are being really unreasonable, and going to Jesus is always my favorite thing to do anytime I'm stressed out about anything. parenting included.
Exactly, exactly. And what a wonderful gift that you gave your kids to pass on to the next generation.
Yeah.
That's, because really that's our goal with this parenting thing is to
Yeah.
raise productive, successful, good members of society, release them into the wild, and hope that you've given them a situation and an environment that they want to duplicate. And that
Yeah.
is, I wish that I'd known that about 10 years ago because I totally would have used that. 100% I would have used
Yeah.
that.
And I know with some kids, some of you listening are like, that would not work with my kids. And you know your kids. But
Right.
my kids actually did honor that. We homeschooled all the way. So we were just always
Oh,
together and we
oh my
were,
gosh.
we were on top of each other all the time. And so I would sometimes say, I think it maybe could use a little time alone. Come back when you're ready, and that's where that came from. What are the
Right.
importance of boundaries for parents? And we're going to just kind of talk parenting today. But you guys, all of this stuff goes just across the board. Setting boundaries in our lives is so important.
It really is. And the thing about boundaries that it kind of has a negative connotation in today's society. It's not negative. And kids actually they want boundaries from you. They want to know who really is at the top of the food chain in your house. And quick little hint, it was not my kids, not even when I was outnumbered 3-1 because my husband traveled. Kids want boundaries and they need those boundaries and they need to know if think about it this way, if your kids are going to make mistakes, if we're going to talk, let's talk teen for a minute, we'll just talk teenage years. That your kiddos are going to go to parties, some of the things that happen at parties, and you want them to have a safe place to land at home, that if they're going to make mistakes, they're going to make them at home within a confined area that keeps them safe so that when they do get out into the world where there aren't those safety nets, they know what to do. They have that safe place to land. And kids, as when they're little bitty, boundaries keep them safe. They keep them safe, they keep them healthy, they keep them away from outlets and candles. So, you know,
I'm
kids
gonna
need them.
I'm gonna give you a second to think. I'm gonna share one of my family's favorite boundaries because it came up, and then I'm gonna have you share one. It came up at dinner one night. My husband had heard one of the children slam the door when they were angry. And this had been happening a few times, but it wasn't really on my radar. I was like, who cares? But he heard the slamming door and he knew that what would happen is the door was going to break at some point. He's going to have to fix it. And so he said at dinner that night, he said, starting now, there's a slamming fee of $5. If you want to slam a door, it'll just cost you $5, but go ahead if you want to. So that was one of the
Exactly.
boundaries. That was one of my favorite boundaries. I love that. I just was cracking up. I was like, I love it. A slamming fee. Who did not? Who'd thought of that?
My daughter is in the middle of two boys, and she would stomp up my stairs, and to the point, and you would look at her and you think, well, that's not going to be that big a deal. She's no bigger than Tinkerbell. Well, let me tell you, when she got angry, she was a little bit bigger than Tinkerbell, and she would stomp up my stairs. And I waited until she got to the top of the stairs, and it rattled the pictures that I had on the wall going up my stairs. And I'd say, okay, come on, Em, let's come back downstairs and we're going to learn how to walk up the stairs again. And she would stomp, stomp, stomp coming down those stairs and stomp, stomp, stomp going back up those stairs. And we did it as many times as it took before she realized, I'm not going to win this. My
Yeah.
mother's going to stand here and she's going to make me do this twisted version of a stairmaster until I no longer can stomp up my stairs.
And I know when the kids were younger, somebody told me this thing and I hated it, but it was true. And then I loved it, but I hated it, but I loved it. Was that if your kids are acting unreasonably, it is because you are allowing it.
Yes.
Not the first time,
No.
but if it's going on and on, the
Mm-hmm.
same stomping up the stairs every time, continually slamming doors, being
Yep.
rude, whatever it is. If when they're little, if it's going on over and over, it's because you're allowing it.
Well, and let me tell you why. It's easier. to
Yeah.
just let them do what they want. It really
Right.
is. I mean, think about it. I didn't sleep for a decade. I had so many kids, and they were so close together, and nobody slept, and everybody wanted to see me at 3 a.m. It's like they had little meetings as to who was going to wake me up at what hour, every night. And it would have been so much easier for me to just let Emma stomp up the stairs. Let
Right.
Elliot, when he was a baby, pull the cuckoo clock off the wall, because cuckoo clocks have really long chains. Well, we also had a door slammer in our house,
Mhm.
and he did it repeated. Not repeated. He did it a couple of times. So while he was at school, we took the door off the hinges
There
and
you
put it
go.
at the neighbor's house. You can't slam a door that's not
You
there.
don't have.
And but all of that takes energy. It
It
takes
does.
energy to do that. And as moms and parents, we don't have that to spare
Yeah.
most days.
Yeah. Yeah. So boundaries, I always went back to that. It was a study that James Dobson decades ago,
Mhm.
because my kids are now all, my youngest is turning 29. So my kids are in their 30s. But he had put out a talk, and he used this study that they had done in a schoolyard. And they did one study of the children when there was no fence around the yard, and another study of the children when there was a fence around the yard. And what happened
Okay.
is, without the fence, the children stayed way interior on the playground. They didn't go to the outside edges at all, because they knew they were going to get yelled at some point. Get back here, or they're
Right.
going to run in the street and get
Right.
hit. So they would just stayed away from the edges. Whereas when they had the fence up, the kids would play all the way to the fence. They had much
Hmm.
more space to play. They had much more freedom because of the
Right.
boundary. It was clear. And so I always like to remember that. And then, as a mom, I don't know if this happened to you, but as a mom, sometimes I would put up a new boundary, but I wouldn't tell my kids about it until after I put it up. And then they'd get in trouble for it before they knew it was there. And so that
Right.
was one thing that I had to learn to really watch for. Always communicate that there's a fence here now, or there's a brick wall here now that you're going to run
Right.
into.
That's exactly right. We forget. We're
Yeah,
thinking, well,
this
I
makes
knew
the
about
most
it.
sense.
I knew about
Right.
it. Why didn't you know about it? I knew about it. Makes sense to me.
Talk to us about battlefield scenarios. You are going to have to address something really rough. How do you think about it? How do you go about it?
Well, the first battlefield that comes to mind is the dinner table. That is I'm going to out my sisters right now. They probably won't be appreciative of this, but I've got a niece that won't eat anything. And that is problematic. That is, I mean, that the dinner table can be, for a lot of parents, a significant battle. And I never made multiple meals for my kids. I never did. I was exhausted by the end of the day. I was really, really looking forward to bedtime, and I wanted them to go to sleep, but I really, needed to feed them. So, and I don't like chicken nuggets and French fries every day. That's not my type of cuisine. So I made things and my dad's a chef, so I know how to cook. And I would put things in front of the kids. This is dinner. But my daughter, bless her heart, she went through a phase where maybe she thought she was a borderline vegetarian. But the only thing she would eat was chicken. So for almost a decade, we told her everything that I cooked was chicken. If I made pork chops, yes, baby girl, it's chicken. If I made a pot roast, go ahead and eat your chicken. It's dark meat chicken. And if I made fish, it's chicken. She's like, Mama, this doesn't taste like you did something wrong. Oh, I used a different seasoning, baby, but go ahead and eat your chicken. And little
Oh,
things
no.
like that. Yes, I lied to my children. I did. But it worked. She ate, and now she eats everything. She
Mm.
eats everything.
Mhm. I know I read a book. Okay, so we have like 10,000 taste buds in our mouth, and everybody's mouth is different. I mean, it's
Right.
crazy. God made us all uniquely. But they have done studies, and on kids, if you will introduce a new food to a child, it just takes 5 to 7 times without judgment. No
Mhm.
judgment. You can eat it or you can leave it, but you just have to taste it. Just taste one bite. 5 to 7 times, they'll adopt almost all foods if there's no judgment. But if there's judgment, they will have a reactionary response to the food, and they will never learn to love it. And so there has to be kind of a safety area there. And for adults, it's more like 15 times without judgment that you eat something. And what I have found, interestingly enough, what I have found as an adult, that I'm actually allergic to the things that I don't like. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I was allergic to milk until I was pregnant with my second child, and I was drinking milk every day because I had had 8 cavities with my first baby. So I was like determined I'm not going to have cavities, because I never have cavities except with my first one. And the doctor said, yeah, as the baby just sucked all that calcium out of you. So with the second one, I was drinking milk every day, threw up every single day till the 8th month. I'm a slow learner. My husband one day saw me drinking a glass of milk. He goes, and then he saw me throw up. And he said, you always drink milk in the morning? I said, only with this one, only with this baby. I'm just drinking milk every day. And he goes, try it without one day. Sure enough, I was lactose intolerant. Didn't even know it.
Oh, my stars.
Most recently, I added a bunch of beans to my diet because I was reading this book about how healthy they were. And I thought, I don't get enough beans. I'm going to add beans. Oh, my body went crazy. I'm very allergic to legumes. I cannot eat that much beans. I can have a little bit, and I can have a little bit of cheese, but I can't have very much. So just there's reasons for some things, but I totally agree with you that sometimes the table can be rough. You need to get them on board. And it's the same when we had a business. People would complain to me, I don't really want to do it that way. We have to have you do it this way. Otherwise we can't stay in business. So either you do it this way, or you have to go work somewhere else, and you have to kind of pick those battlefields. And I don't know if lying is the best way to do it, but that works in a pinch maybe, huh?
It worked. It worked for about a decade. And she was like, I don't really think this is chicken. And she's like, you told me it was chicken a lot, and I don't know that I believe you. And she's 19 years old now, and she's like, you were really sneaky. You were really, really sneaky. I was like, it worked though. And thankfully none of my kids are allergic to anything. So I wouldn't, and I've got one, my youngest doesn't like peas. Still doesn't like peas, doesn't like green beans. But he had to eat one for every year that he was until until he was like 10. And so he would have to eat one pea. He would have to eat one green bean. And now, he's 17 and I make green beans. I love green beans. My husband does. And Elliot looks at him and he's like, I'm not eating that. And he's almost a grown man. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna
force it down and go.
No. No.
What have you found about the role of partners, collaborators in supporting, in growing through the rough times?
You mean spouses or just your your circle?
Yeah, both.
Both. Okay. So it's interesting. I just wrote an article the other day about the sanctity of the marriage bed. And I think that being connected to your spouse in more ways than just sharing a last name is vitally important to the health and success of your family. I believe that. Jeff and I, we were on the same page before we even got married, and we wanted to present a unified front. And we've been married almost 22 years. There have been very, very few occasions where we've been on opposite ends of, let's say, a discipline or an agreement or something that one of the kids wanted to do. And I said one thing, he said another thing, but in front of the kids, we were always united. And, and the boundaries around the marriage bed is the same thing. It's very difficult to maintain that dating relationship with your spouse when you've got a kid or two right in the middle of you at night. And that's why they have their own bedrooms. We decorate nurseries. We do a great time. We have a great time with that. They can sleep in their own bed, and it doesn't diminish their familial experience at all. But it is vital to provide a happy and healthy mom and dad relationship.
Yeah, I'm gonna just add a perspective to that too, and that's how Dave and I did it, just the way you described. Having traveled around the world, it's interesting. In many cultures, the family bed is the only bed.
That's right.
So it does work. You can make it work, and it's not. I don't think there's judgment on anybody who chooses to go that way, but definitely, definitely a a space for you and your spouse is something that is truly a gift. It's just a gift we've been given the opportunity to tap into, and yeah, that's how we did it too.
It really is. We have friends in a lot of other cultures, and the Indian culture, they do business on their bed like
Yeah,
that. That's where you sit. You don't have a boardroom. You go
right.
into the family bed and sit.
Yeah,
And I'm not. I don't want to seem like I'm judging people. I've got a lot of
yeah,
friends that do the family bed.
yeah.
I'm just saying that there's got to be there's got to be a sanctuary, for lack of a
Somewhere,
better word,
somewhere, sometime.
for mom and dad, because
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
when our kids leave home, we're almost empty nesters. My youngest is graduating in December from high school, and we're shipping him off to A&M. And then Jeff and I are going to be left alone in this house. And I'm thankful that I don't have to get to know him again,
Mhm.
because we've
Right,
continued to date for the last
right,
22 years.
right.
And it's very important for families to remember that, because kids are needy. Oh my stars, they're needy. And it would be so easy to neglect your spouse. And my advice is to just really, really try not to do that.
Right. Yeah. And I so agree with that. And to remember that that is the core relationship out of which the children came.
That's right.
It is not
That's
the other
right.
way around.
No, no.
How do you find the courage, the fortitude, the joy to giggle through the rough times, the the roller coaster twists
The
and
roller
turns,
colors.
the roller colors?
To to be honest, as I was going through it, I was not laughing.
Mm.
I did a lot of I did a lot of crying in my closet. My closet was where I went
Well, and that's
to
where you and I usually
sit,
talk from
and
too.
that's where you and I talk from, is my closet, because nobody can get me in there. I can lock the bathroom door and you can't reach me. And I'm thankful though that I had that God, I put it on me to write some of these things down,
Mhm.
because without that, I wouldn't have the benefit and the blessing of looking back going, oh, for starters, I survived that. And two, maybe this could help somebody else,
Yeah.
because moms, we kind of feel like we're islands, and we're really not. We're not supposed to do this by ourselves. We're supposed to have a community around us. We were created to be in community. And it's very easy to get sidetracked to where you think, well, I have to do it perfectly, and I always have to be perfect, and I always have to have my makeup on. And girl, please, if I wasn't talking to you this morning, I would not have my face on. And I just I didn't want to scare the audience. But it's important. It is important to find that balance.
Yeah. I think what you said was so helpful, because a lot of times we think we're supposed to giggle through every minute, and that means joy. So one of the passages that I really like in the Bible is that Jesus, for the joy set before him,
Endured the
endured
cross.
the cross, despising the shame.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's like, okay, there was joy in that sentence, but it
Yes.
didn't just giggle out of his mouth as he's being crucified. That's not what was happening there.
No, and
Yeah.
go ahead. Well,
Yeah. So
the
go
night
ahead.
before, he was sweating bullets
Right.
or
Mhm.
sweating blood,
Yeah.
because this was something that he knew was going to be
Mhm.
excruciating for him.
Right.
But he
Right.
did it with your face in mind, with my face in mind, and my children's face. I mean, he did it for us, and that was where his joy came from. And I
Right.
think that that's an excellent example for moms, that we
Mhm.
do some of these things that are exhaustive for us, but
Yeah.
we do it with that type of joy in mind.
And when they're little, God does have this, he just made them so adorable when they're little.
He did. He
I
did.
have a friend that has 19 children, and
I'm
well,
sorry. Did you just say 19
I
children?
did, I did. And when she was on
Oh my
about number
stars.
12, she said something to me that just cracked me up no end. So you can imagine how exhausted she was. She's number 12. And
Oh,
she said, 2-year-olds, it's just a good thing God made him so cute, or you'd just want to kill him. And it's so true. They're just so darling, even when they're doing the worst things.
the
You're
worst
like,
things.
oh my gosh, you're just so funny that you think you're ruling the world here. And but it is this gift that God gives us, that when they're tiny, they are those little smiles a newborn will give you, a baby will give
Yeah.
you, and the little giggles, and then a 2-year-old's antics and a 4-year-old's why. Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why?
And then they lose their teeth and they get all gangly and out of sorts for a while. And then by the time they're teens, you have invested so much into that kid that no matter what they do, you're in for the long haul, and God did this
Yeah.
all on purpose, So,
Oh, he did.
and it's not all fun and funny. A lot of it is very painful. Even adult children can cause
Yeah.
us to just be so sad. But at the same time, you have invested so much. They're so much a part of your fiber of who you are from
Yeah.
the very beginning. Yeah. So, yeah, important not to think you're supposed to laugh all the way through it. That's not true.
No, no, and you can't. I mean, you've got to. There's some very serious moments that take place,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
miracle behind that is watching. Even though that 2-year-old and that 4-year-old is pushing every button that you have and pushing buttons you didn't know you have, they you are watching all of their little brain connections start to work, and you're
Right.
watching that. They're little budding psychopaths, but no, they're very cute. But you get to watch them. Their world is expanding at an exponential rate, and you get to witness that. You get to witness that. You get to be a part of that, because they don't, they learn words, so many different words every day. And imagine how you would feel if you woke up tomorrow morning with 50 new words added to your vocabulary overnight, or that you were able to do a task tomorrow that you couldn't do today. And that's what we get to watch with our kids. And it's so
I love
important
that.
to just sit back. I do it myself. Well, now you got to add 30 minutes onto your departure time, because they're going to want to put that jacket on by themselves, zip it up or button it or put shoes on the wrong feet. Let them.
Yeah.
Let them, because they are learning how to be little people. And I mean, and it's a little frustrating sometimes, but it's so worth it. So worth it.
I love that. That's great perspective. So, what are some personal tips on anger management when you are in
Oh,
confusion and chaos?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was really hoping that you were not going to ask me that, because that is something that I am still working on. And I walk through my house at times going, Jesus, take the wheel. But, because we're human,
Yeah.
we're human, we're fallen, and sin has entered the world. So the greatest thing that the greatest tip that I can give is check yourself. Before you start exploding onto somebody else, check yourself. Do you need a timeout? And then I'm not talking about just with our kiddos, because our kiddos, they do things, and you get upset, you get angry, and maybe you shouldn't. But we've got an extended family. We've got our own family. We've got in-laws. My husband calls my mother his outlaw, and which is totally fitting. Totally fitting. But with all of those different moving parts, anger is going to come up, and there's a time to go and be by yourself and be with Jesus. Go to your closet and go sit in your closet and tell Jesus, I'm going to need some help on this one, or I'm going to end up in jail. And so it's the anger thing. Breathing helps a lot. And then getting perspective, because we don't know what the other person, if we're dealing with adults, and you said something to me that upset me, I don't know what you're going through right now. I have no idea what your life looks like behind the camera. You don't know what my life looks like. And if I said something that was snippy or that hurt your feelings, communication is there. Dallas, what you said really, really, it really hurt my feelings. This is how I took it. And chances are I would say, oh my goodness, Marnie, no, that is not what I meant at all. You caught me on an off day, which isn't your fault. It's my fault. So, check your motives. And then there are times that anger, you're supposed to, it's a righteous anger, and that's got to be addressed as well. So communication basically is the way to deal with it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of 3 things. The first one is a soda bottle. So if you have a bottle of pop and you shake it up, if you take that lid off while it's shook up like that, it's going to have an explosion. And I do believe that it's better to take the lid off and explode at God than to just let it settle down. Because if you keep doing that, it's going to go flat. Actually, that
Yes.
kills your soul to do that.
Right.
So, but if you recognize that when I'm shook up like a bottle of soda, I am going to explode at somebody. And I
Right.
choose as often as I can to explode at God, and He can handle it.
Yeah.
He's built us that way. That's why He says pray without ceasing, because He actually wants us to blah all over Him instead of all over
Yeah.
everybody in our world. And then another one is when I had a girls club in my home. So I'd have they weren't even, they were 11 to 13-year-olds, most of
Oh,
them, that would come
wow.
in after school on a bus. They'd
Mhm.
come drop them off at my house. And then we'd make meals for families in need for supper that night.
Oh,
They were actually going to have to
right.
be edible. Well, you can imagine me with 8 or more girls in my little kitchen making this meal that people had to eat tonight. And
Right.
sometimes it was crazy because I was teaching them how to cook the most basic
Mhm.
steps. And so it was so crazy. And I would sometimes really lose my patience, especially if one of them was just
Yeah.
being wild and making the whole thing not work. And I remember it was during those years that God taught me that I could just open the fridge door or open a cupboard door with my back to them and just go, God, I have no patience for so and so right now. And I just say it silently in my heart, but please give me some of yours. And that humble prayer, when we acknowledge that He exists and He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him, that humble prayer resulted in Him actually infusing His love, patience, perseverance into me right then in the moment. And that always astounded me that it could work like that. But
Mhm.
I do feel like the other thing I wanted to say was Stormy O'Mardian in her book about
Yeah.
praying for your children. She
Yeah.
talked about worry in a different way than I'd ever experienced it before. Because as parents, we do worry for our kids. I mean,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're going to pick a worry, it's my kids that I'm going to worry
Yep.
about. And so she said that she had recognized that worry was Jesus standing at her heart store saying, can we talk about this from my perspective? So I bring my worry to Jesus and He transforms it into He's got them. It's okay. Here's what you need to do next, or just pray and wait, or whatever it is. And it does transform our situation, our circumstances, to let that anger actually be what it is, but to Jesus, and then let Him restore our equilibrium just as quick as possible. So I love that. And it's such a joy to have God to walk through parenting with, right? Instead of doing it ourselves.
You I can't believe that you just hit on the worry and the anger in the same sentence. Were you in my house last night? I
I
just I
wasn't there.
feel like maybe you were in my house last night. Our oldest is wanting to study abroad,
Mm,
in the late spring. He wants to go abroad. And my mama heart said, over my dead body.
right?
And that was, and it was the worry, that prompted me to say
Mhm,
that. And it was my anger to say it in the way that I did. And
mhm.
my husband is sitting on the couch. My oldest is sitting on the couch. He drove in to have this conversation with us. And about 30 minutes into it, I looked at both of them and I went, fine, y'all do whatever it is you want to do. I'm going to bed. And I slammed my bedroom door and I laid there for 30 minutes praying. God, I know he's yours. I know
Yeah.
he belongs to you. I know you have him on loan to me, but Jesus, I'm not ready to give him back to you yet. Please protect him. Please help him make the right decision. Please help us make the right decision and take this from me. And so, yes, I wrote a book on parenting. No, I do not have it all figured out and know what
Yeah.
to do with the next step because every step is different. But the worry is something that it's a work in progress, and I am
Mhm,
learning to give that to Jesus, especially
mhm.
now that my children are actually adults and they don't need my permission to go and
I
do
know.
something, even
I
if
know.
it's study abroad.
Our son went into the militaries at age 29 to go into special forces. So he went in as an 18
Wow.
ex trainee. And I tell you, talk about, yeah, all those kind of thoughts as a mama's heart. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for every person who's ever done that for us. for our
Yeah,
freedom.
I am too.
Oh
Yes,
my goodness. I just don't want it to be my baby boy. So,
exactly.
had to go through all that with Jesus. Now he's gone, go through all that fear and struggle. And then to just watch how God just did something totally unexpected and turned it around. He actually just last week got out on a what do you call it? A physical discharge? What is that called?
Uh,
Um,
uh, honorable medical disability,
medical
medical.
discharge because of all things he walks in his sleep. And he didn't have that
Oh,
until he hit the point where they were totally sleep deprived and then under a
oh yeah.
tremendous amount of stress. And then he started walking to sleep, which actually doesn't work with a gun strapped to your body. That sleepwalking thing
Mm-mm,
just doesn't work.
mm-mm,
So
mm-mm.
medical discharge and he's out. And it's so wonderful to have him back. Disappointing for him that he didn't get to go all the way with his dream that he
Right.
wanted to do there. But I think that it was another moment when I just thought, thank you, God, for not letting me worry this whole time because
Yeah.
you already knew how it was going to turn out. And I would have never in a million years guessed it would turn out like this. And it didn't necessarily need to turn out like this, right? We don't
Right.
get to decide
Right.
the turnout, right?
No.
But I
No.
think that we lose a lot of life. We lose a lot of joy
Yeah.
worrying when instead we could be trusting the very
Right.
God who created my son, who created
Yes.
our children and loves them more than we do. And
I
so
know.
trusting him is a safe and good thing to do, but it does not come naturally.
No, and it goes
It
against
does.
every fiber in a mama's being is to give your kiddo over to somebody else and say, okay, I know in my head, I know you've got this. In my heart, I know you've got this. But the rest of me is still gonna fight you
Screaming.
on this. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna say right now, to be honest, the rest of me is a little anxious about this.
Yeah,
And
right.
so yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard being a mom. That part of it, it
yeah.
doesn't ever go away. It
It
doesn't ever
doesn't.
go away.
No, it doesn't,
Mm-mm.
because we really just love them so much. I love how Storm and Marty and just got to the point, and I have gotten to the point where when worry comes knocking at my door, I realize it's just Jesus saying, it's time to pray. Come talk to me.
I'm totally
Oh,
feeling that. I love
isn't
that.
that
I
beautiful?
love that.
She
It
taught
is
me that and
so
it
precious.
changed my whole experience as a mother. Because I used to
Yes.
either go on worrying, thinking that
Yep.
that's what moms are supposed to do. And that's super
Yep.
painful, you guys. Worry is
Yeah.
extremely painful. Or I would I would beat myself up for worrying because I was supposed to be trusting. So
Right.
this opportunity to just say, "Oh, I feel worry. It's time to talk to Jesus." Wow, that is so beautiful. So just
It really is.
as we close, I want to encourage you guys to check out the book, Why Some Animals Eat Their Young. It's hilarious. It's God-centric. It's in a great look at life. And if you know of a mom who's struggling to just get through the days, that might be a wonderful gift for her as well. You can also learn more about Dallas. Your website, Dallas, is your name, dallaslewis.com. How convenient is that? And when people go there, what are they going to find?
When you visit my website, you're going to have a contact me form. So you can bring me out to your women's event. I would love to come and visit with you in person. You're going to find a lot of my blog posts, which they're not listed in the book. And so I've got years worth of material on my blog. So take your time, grab a cup of coffee and scroll through
Nice.
it and look at the pictures, read about my crazy kids and my sweet husband, but my fourth child, and so you're going to find all kinds of things like that on the website. And I want to say one quick thing: the audio book for Why Some Animals Eat Their Young drops in a couple of weeks, and you can find that through
Nice.
Amazon right now. We're going to load it up on the website eventually, but right now the best place to get it is Amazon,
Fun.
and you'll love it. You'll love it. It's so
You do
funny.
your own reading?
They wouldn't let me do my own reading, but the lady that did a phenomenal job. I could
Oh,
not
fun.
be happier. I could not be happier
I
with
cannot wait.
what she did.
I'm totally an Audible reader.
I love it. Yes,
Yeah,
I love audiobooks. Love them, love
how
them.
fun.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much. It's so great to have you here. Thank you, Dallas.
Oh, I had so much fun, Marnie. Thank you so much.
And thanks, you guys, for joining us. You can check out Dallas's book and everything else about her at her website, dallaslewis.com, and also invite her to speak via womensspeakers.com. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye-bye.